Weird. Not Laurel. A little bit, been over there.
All right,
I mean,
we are live. Council is ready. We have a quorum. Jimmy won't be with us tonight, so I'll go ahead and call to order the the rescheduled regular council meeting for the town of Tula Falls in September 19th, 2024. And I'd like to start with a moment of silence. Amen. All right, I would like to, some new information came up that I don't want to get into tonight about, section 22 of our codes, our ordinances. So we need to kind of, I want to back up a little bit on that and rethink the approach, because like I said, we may need to do more than what was originally planned. So I want to go ahead and get a motion to remove G from the agenda. So Scott makes a motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Okay, so we're going to remove that. We'll come back to it at some point in the future. With that, then I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Scott makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, it's unanimous. All right. Need to have a motion to accept the consent agenda. Scott makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. We have no attorney report, we have no old millage, or no old business, sorry. I'm reading ahead as I'm trying to speak. It's a bad habit. So we will go ahead and move on to new business, and we want to talk about the millage rate adoption. My goal has always been that we should set at 6 mil and just stay there. That's my opinion. We now have an opportunity to do that. We increased the millage rate a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, because of attorney's fees. That's now kind of fading out. We've also had a reassessment done of properties recently. We're still pulling in some information and trying to figure out this House Bill 581. House Bill 581 is going to cap assessments on homestead properties at absolutely no more than 3%. Is that correct? If we participate. Now, there's this weird clause that I'm still trying to wrap my head around where we can theoretically opt out of all this, but I don't know why anyone would want to. So I need to talk to Victor Anderson and help formulate that bill and figure out what that's about. Anyway, so what a lot of counties did, and we didn't have any control over it, is a lot of counties front loaded and did a much higher revaluation on properties because they know they won't get more than that 3% moving forward. So that's unfair. But that kind of puts us in a position now where we can set our millage rate at 6 mils, which has always been until about, I don't know,
2 years ago, we were 6, 7.
yeah. Yeah, and we actually were below 6 mils for a little while. We were at the 5 point something level for a little while. But that hurt us because we had essentially cost of living increases. And so even though we were still having to operate with the same dollar amount for our budget, we were having to pay out more because the cost of insurance, the cost of fuel, the cost of whatever had gone up. So to me, just leaving it set at 6 mils has historically worked really well for this town. No matter what inflation's doing, no matter what's going on out there. I feel like that's kind of where we should just try to stay. Unfortunately, it's never politically comfortable when you have to put out a notice that someone's getting a tax increase because you left the millage rate alone. Simply because the value of their home went up. But that means inflation's gone up too. So, of course, I'm not sure how this all works out with the recent drop in interest rates. They dropped it a whole half point today or yesterday. So I'm not sure how that's gonna play into all this. But long and short, I would like to see us at 6 and try to stay there as best we can. I believe that setting it at 6 doesn't change our total revenue.
So now the rollback rates for Raven was 6.007 and Haversham would have been 6.191. So setting it at 6 is below the rollback rate.
So I think we've got a great opportunity to do that. So that's why
I think we've always said, when we started talking about increases to cover attorney expenses, our goal ultimately is to bring it back down to that set.
correct.
So I think we should.
Okay, so.
Gonna cut your salary?
Huh? You can cut my salary by all means, but both salaries you can cut. Can't cut Linda's.
Don't come.
So,
I'll make a motion that we accept this resolution.
okay. Mike makes a motion, Scott seconds, all in favor? It's unanimous. All right.
Separate or was that?
Well,
Gotta do, you're supposed to do them
I
second.
gotta do one for each county.
Oh, so which county?
Oh. DeVoto?
Just pick one. Raven.
Ready.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for Haversham.
And Scott makes a motion for Haversham. We'll do both at the same time. We're informal. All in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. So I know Warren might not like that. We can fix it later if something comes up, I'm sure. All right, so new business item B is town hall door and security proposal. The front door, the reason I put in SPOS and schools on camera, public safety funds, is because one of the, was it Haversham or Raven SPOS? I think it was Haversham SPOS. We put in some upgrades to city properties. And so all these new LED lights, most of the ceiling tiles, these windows that are now double pane instead of the old single pane, we replaced all of them from that SPOS. And the front doors had always been part of that project, but we just simply couldn't find anyone that would do the work. Well, because of what happened a few weeks ago, and so that the public knows a little bit, I can't get into a whole lot of detail, there was a credible threat against the town by an individual who threatened to harm our police chief, blow up different assets of the town, and do other mischief. Linda's here by herself every day, most of the time. These items that we're looking to purchase, some security cameras that will be outside, some doors that can be locked and only activated from inside if we feel like we need to. That's what we're doing. We're trying to secure City Hall so that Linda can be safe if we're having threats. And this threat has just, we've already talked about it. This threat derives from schools on campus.
Yeah.
So it's an issue. And that's what I was telling our officer tonight. I was like, the reason I want an officer present, he had to go take care of something. There's nothing gonna happen tonight, but having a police presence just in case is comforting to me to some degree. But this gives us another line of defense. So we didn't really let that out, and I'm not gonna go into detail of how we're gonna set that up, but
I do have one thing to add.
yeah, go ahead.
So I talked to the door person for today and, if we want the ability to buzz someone in if we want to do that, turn it off and on, then he said basically rough numbers would be about $1,000 more than that. That does not include
Doesn't
the
include
buzz.
the buzzing.
Yeah.
I would
You would
like,
have to do it.
I would like to have
Exactly,
that
like
option.
that. But I'm curious why we have just one phone.
These two companies work together a lot. Omega is the one that's doing the other security things. You know, around the school and the part that we had already quoted for the city, so
And you're lucky to get a quote.
that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
actually
that's-
are.
they were in.
They were in tandem. The, part of the reason we ended up with really only one quote is that Omega is who we've already contracted with.
Yeah,
Or-
no, I don't have a problem with the Mega, it's Chattahoochee Professional Door.
Oh, that's because they're the one, Omega said these are the people we work with, so I just see it as I just saw it as an extension of Omega.
And they're a local contractor too, so they're,
Yeah,
yeah, familiar, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we have the same setup at church
Do you?
that we can buzz in also with cameras. And Omega did the cameras, but we used Raven Glass.
Oh, well, I think we looked at Raven Glass for our front doors at one point, and they said they weren't interested. So, cause we did look locally, Bill Gocher was the one heading all that up. He looked locally first and then started expanding out. He ended up in Atlanta. And had a company come up and look, they came up and looked at it. But then they ended up, they just never got back with us.
No worries. Yeah, either way, it has to be done.
Yeah, we need to do it, and I would like to have that capability, I don't know that we need it on all the time. But just to have that ability would be. To me is important, because, I mean, it's not just the schools on campus. It's anybody.
If you're gonna do this, do you go to a keypad system?
I'm not sure if it's gonna be keypad or like a pass card.
Yeah.
Or what it will be, but possibly,
Text.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not,
Hey Linda, what's the other door, added door posted and replaced?
Because with that, you can remote open it.
one of them is gonna be a door that's handicap accessible, it needs a different closure. Than the other door.
Now, this is frame and door.
Yeah, no, he said that if we didn't do the handicap operator door, then that the additional is for the door closer. But if we are doing the handicap, which I said,
Yeah,
So if you're doing the handicap operator.
Then
you
it's
do
just
64. It's already in the other one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
okay. So we just need to add,
because I was like,
It's
those
a
two
big
numbers
chunk
do
out.
not
Yeah, it's a
add
big
up to
chunk.
that one.
Yeah.
And
so
they can do it in a timely basis.
I hope so, I have no idea, I know we've been, the company that's installing our camera, or. Our dash cam and body cam for the police department have been backed up for months, they're just now getting to it. Back Tuesday, I'm supposed to be pulling the fire trucks out so they can do the work in our engine bay. Finally, they can prepare them, so I can't say what their turnaround time on this is, I didn't know.
It is a small job, so I can see,
And, it might be, but Linda's on top.
Yeah. So the door totals 12,858, and then the software or the camera system that aligns with it, it's 10,000 something.
If we're gonna do the buzz in, it'll be 13,858.
That's the
So
extra
I'd say-
1,000 you're talking.
So I would say let's budget for 15. If we can, and then we need to split it between, how much slots we have left?
It's not that much, it's like 4,000.
Okay, so use up that SPOS and the rest comes out of our safety budget.
And again, I would like to see us upgrade the lock system. Because with the keypad or with a fob or card, then you also have the option to let somebody in or out.
Yeah.
Remotely.
Yeah, and with those card systems, you can create a card that's disposable and get like DDA could have
You
access.
can do the same with a keypad. that it's good for one time or 30 days or whatever you need, so.
So the 10,000 would come out of the safety funds, we could budget it there.
Correct.
Okay.
And Omega handles all that.
Yeah, Mega will be the lead.
They did ours, I mean, for the key system.
Yeah, and they're the ones that did the school and gonna be setting us up for some others. We still have the other stuff we need to get done at some point, but.
So you need a motion to approve?
Need a motion to approve and in that motion, so. So it's, I need a motion to approve. These contracts. With a total expenditure of 15,000.
Well, that,
Is that right?
Uh,
that only covers,
Gotta
Yeah,
add.
that wouldn't be enough for both projects.
the other one is almost 11.
You need to say
Oh.
25,000.
25.
Covered both. Yeah,
Okay,
better.
25,000.
Yep.
For a budget of 25,000. Paid for in a combination from SLOST and public safety. So,
So I'll make the motion as stated.
okay, so Scott makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Unanimous out there too. Oh,
Just clarification, that does include the handicap assessment?
yes, yes, we want handicap accessibility on these doors. Poor van. Has a hard time getting through that door, and it's time we fix that, so. And anybody else for that matter,
The doors are really heavy.
yeah, they are good, so. Okay, okay, so there has, item C is an agreement with Blue Line Solutions. Something happened at the state level, I believe, that changed how some things need to be done for Department of Revenue compliance with our thing. So what that's about is that if someone doesn't pay their citation on time and doesn't, or don't come to court to have it, try to have it dismissed, our recourse is to then put essentially a lien on their vehicle, saying they can't re-register it or sell it. They can't, that vehicle cannot be registered until that citation's been paid. I also learned out, interesting enough, that North Carolina has a new law that they adopted that would allow us to enforce that in North Carolina as well. Interesting, but we do that through the department, the Georgia Department of Revenue. So this agreement, this contract, whatever, how we want to word it, is establishing whatever it is Blue Line needs with the Department of Revenue, so.
So I'll make a motion that we allow Mike to sign this, move forward with it.
Yeah, and I'll second it. All right, second, all in favor, unanimous? All right. Hazard mitigation plan update for Raven and Habersham. These are every, I think, 5 years, we have to update our hazard mitigation. They don't really change that much because I mean, there's not much. There's not much that has to be addressed. However, it does need to be updated. This is so that if a disaster were to happen, and it was catastrophic enough to have an actual impact on us, we can apply for federal funding to help recover from that disaster. Without this in place, we can't do it. And we have to go through the counties in order to have access to that. And so the counties have both reached out and said, hey, we need to have these updated. It's time, and it's pretty much the same thing we've done every time. I don't think the wording's ever changed, so.
I'll make a motion, we approve it, second, then you go ahead and sign.
All right, Scott, next motion, Mike seconds.
Raven and Habersham.
Raven and Habersham. All right, good deal. Item E, the Verdinos have submitted their application to come back next year.
Yeah, the only thing I hate to see is that it seems like it's less time each year.
I do, on that note, I do want to come back and let's, in the next few months, let's revisit our ordinance on this. Because one of the problems is they're actually allowed to stay up to 180 days total a year. However, they can only stay up to 90 days at one time. So there are times that they'll be traveling by, coming through, and then say, well, we can stay for a week and do some work and hang out. But they need to have, right now, they have to have 30 days notice. So that we can approve it. So I wanna readdress this at some point, maybe let's build in some flexibility somehow. I need to talk to Warren about how we can do that. It can be something as simple as, once you've had an application approved, then you get to. You don't have to, it becomes the discretion of the
It's
mayor.
good for, well, or it's good for 180 days. Allotted anyway,
Yeah, something along
deemed
those
necessary,
lines.
you know.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk about that in the future.
Gerhard.
Do what? Gerhard?
Yeah,
Yeah, you didn't know that was.
no, but I know it now.
Yeah. So, yeah, so at some point I'd like to address that because there is I think about a 2-week period, they could come back through here in late October or November. But they don't know when that will be, so they can't, fill out an application.
They can maybe help us with our Christmas decorations.
Exactly, or be here for the Christmas party, which I think would be awesome.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
Have them here for the.
They
Christmas
definitely
party.
deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Can it be open-ended where it goes for a whole year? That
Possibly.
180 days?
possibly, yeah, and I think that's what Scott was saying.
It is, yeah.
So we just, I mean, I wanna get with Warren about it and kind of get the wording on that.
But we should discuss it further.
Yeah. I think we need
In
to.
the meantime, I'll make a motion that we accept their application.
Okay, Scott makes a motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous? All right, the comprehensive plan update submittal. I've read through it, I don't see a whole lot wrong with what's in our packet. I don't know if y'all have, I don't have it in this packet, but, I did.
Turn in that one list.
Oh, the one list page? Okay, oh, I do have it then. There are a couple of items on this list page that I think are kind of. Well, actually, really only one issue on this page, and it would be. Where is it? Basically, it's the bridge, the pedestrian bridge across the highway.
Second to last.
So, there it is, okay. So, second to the last on there, because, and the reason I would wanna strike that one is because in part of the Rails to Trails project, we're already talking about creating an underpass under the bridge. And to do an overpass is gonna be extremely expensive. I think this $1 million estimate is way off.
It's just a placeholder.
Yeah, I think it's way off.
And then we were also talking about improving that in Frank's plan,
Right,
of a better access,
yeah,
ramp down instead of stairs, so we're already prepared for that.
right. So I felt like that one's already been addressed in a slightly different way. And so the other problem with the pedestrian bridge over a highway. Mischief can happen. I know DOT has basically said, I know things change over time, but they basically said there's absolutely no way we're gonna let you do the pedestrian bridge across the highway. That could or could not change in the future. However, aside from that, even if we were allowed to, how would we do it in a way that kids, teenagers, because we can't monitor that bridge constantly, would be doing something mischievous and
It's
causing damage.
similar to the way they did it over, Main Street, Demarest at the college.
Yeah.
They've got that bridge that goes over that road, and they've got screening going up
Yeah,
to minimize that, but
but you're adding,
but again, we're
you're adding
already
cost.
in place to go under.
Yeah,
We don't need to go over.
yeah, I think it'd be better, it'd look better, and keep this, the view cleaner
Yes.
if we were to continue.
Well,
Yeah,
And long term, you won't have the maintenance issues.
right. Well, that's, you know what, I didn't think about that. You have maintenance issues.
Using painting and rust protection, all of that.
And if it looked bad, it looked bad.
Yeah,
There's no gray area on that.
right. Yeah, I agree. So that would be, that's really the only real item that I saw on the list that I thought maybe we would want to remove from. So outside of that, most of it's pretty much the same as it's always been. I would like to thank David and Terry as being our civilian representatives in this process. If y'all would like to,
I have a question, though, where did we come up with 250,000 for water line replacement? What's that based on, and what is that really replacing? No, that's a pretty low figure, so.
I don't know, maybe they know that.
It's
Yeah.
based on.
It's a low figure.
Yeah.
So we have an
Very low
estimate
figure.
from years ago, but the whole point of a comprehensive plan is to make an announcement that these are projects we want to work on, as Linda references a placeholder.
Yep.
So as projects and development and so forth down the road, they're supposed to reference back to the public document as a guideline, but not an exact number.
It's not a contract to say, hey, here are the projects we'd like to do. We
It's a
think
wish
it costs this. Yes, a wish list.
Well, it's when you apply for grants in the
You gotta
future,
have it.
they want to see that this is the direction you've been going in with your plan. So you may not want to do the bridge, but what else have you got in the future of the town that may be 10 or 15 years out? You know, that you're gonna go for it and you're gonna need money for it, and you want your grants to be supported by the fact that the town has been moving in this direction this entire time.
So it's kind of like the rail trail project.
Yeah.
We've had that on our list since the late nineties. And we keep it on the list because that is something we want to have at some point. We just have to figure out how to pay for it. So,
So we're really not penalized by leaving that pedestrian bridge over.
No, not at all.
no, not really.
We
You're
lose
not
nothing.
penalized, no.
That's- The thought process on that is people need to be fully aware of the impact of inland port coming through this area.
Mhm.
And we have Frogger situation already running. So again, these are just, you just throw it out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to ever spend any money on it, but it's just.
Yeah, it's not a commitment. It's
Yeah,
just
it's not a
an
commitment.
idea. To me, I would actually prefer to figure out some way to put signage or barricades. So that we don't have the Frogger situation happen. And they're forced to go under the bridge, or if we do. Pedestrian bridge, but because I guarantee the pedestrian bridge in Demarest. Students still run across the road.
Oh, I would think so, yeah.
They park over there and they still run across it because they don't want to climb the stairs.
So they have the elevator,
Yeah,
but still.
that introduces a whole other issue.
Oh, it sure does.
So, especially when it breaks down.
Yeah.
So,
I look at it like an expense account. Ask for everything.
I mean, that's
That's whatever you get.
we should just leave it as is.
I haven't had a no kill me yet. I ask a lot. and I
When
get-
we're long gone, they may look back and say, oh, well, yeah, that's been on the document for decades.
So. Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and submit it. I'm not, that's just the one I wanted to bring up and I didn't see anything.
And this particular piece of the comp plan is updated every 5 years. I mean, we're sooner, but it has to be.
We've actually. Yeah, see, we completed some projects on here. So,
We always have to put on our existing list, you know, if it's complete, in progress, postponed or canceled. There's a couple of question marks on there because those are things that GMRC added into the last one that really weren't Tallulah specific, but it made it on like all of the cities lists. So that's why I put question, because they weren't specific exactly to us.
that's fine. So,
At all.
it's one of those things, one thing I will note. About the importance of the comp plan. Is we had a situation where some property was rezoned. Back in the mid-90s. The property on TF Road was rezoned to business. That rezoning did not fit with our comprehensive plan, and the mayor at the time got a letter from the governor's office saying, hey. This doesn't fit with your comp plan. you need to be aware that, I mean, the whole purpose of this is to, you're being guided by your community on how they wanna develop, but you're doing something different from that. So either change your comp plan or don't do that again. So yeah, Bradley Brown got a letter from the governor's office because that action was seen as a violation of the comprehensive plan. So there are people watching this and watching what we're doing. So DCA, most of them, I believe, is watching, so. Anyway, any other discussion, comments, questions? Otherwise, take a motion to do whatever we need to do here.
We have to just approve to submit.
So what we're doing at this point is approving the submittal to the state for their review. Once they review and comment, it will come back to the cities for a final adoption. So there's some time if we want to make any adjustments, but
Well, I'll make that motion.
Make the motion for submittal and Mike.
as is or
As is.
as is.
Yes, it's not me.
All in favor? Unanimous, all right. We removed the discussion to amend section 22. Because like I said, like I mentioned before, we need some time to rethink because of new information we got last week. Oh my gosh, for the mayor's comments, I know I had some. But I didn't write them down. One issue we had is we're almost pumping double the amount of water up to Gorge View right now. See, I should wrote that down. So on that note, if anyone and out there in YouTube land, please, if you see anything that you think is suspicious on Gorge View or Hickory Nut Mountain Road, where we might be losing water, we need to look at it. We need to find it. Something's happened. I'm now pumping almost twice as much water as we should. So, and within the past, I would say 3 weeks, something's changed.
Is the construction site still using water? Remember, we had talked about that, next to the Irvin's site, that they had access to water.
To my knowledge, they don't currently have access to water at that location.
I thought they were washing equipment or doing something. We talked about something up there a couple of months ago.
Now, up the road on Hickory Nut, about what, 430? Hickory Nut Mountain Road, where got the two structures right now. They have a meter at that location. But down by the lake, if they're using the water, I don't know where they're getting it from. Because there are no, other than Mary Beth, there are no meters. Well, there may be meters, but if there are meters, well, there may be connections, but there's not meters.
And this was prior to us identifying where the leak was. We had that discussion during a meeting.
There, okay, across the road from that property on Hickory Nut, there is a meter box. And there was concern that we were not monitoring that meter, but I think we are now.
Okay.
So.
We always read that. Yeah.
Okay, so we would see any usage off of that meter. I don't think we
So is the
see.
loss up Gorge View or Hickory Nut?
I'm not well, there's a little on Hickory Nut. If you look at the,
No, but the big one you were just talking
The
about.
big one
happened with
looks like
last
it's
year.
Hickory Nut.
the big one might be on Hickory Nut.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's happened in the last few weeks, so.
But we also have a loss at the connection at Demers too.
Yeah, so it'd be from Demorest down in here somewhere, but that loss is.
Well, but that's where we're at. It's
Yeah.
every little bit's gonna make a difference.
It's just some of those losses, if they're so small, they're really, really, really hard to detect. So, and that one's a relatively small. So, yeah, just be aware if you see something. I mean, we may still have an issue, like you said, where that spring, we're moving, maybe feeding the spring over there.
Yeah.
And not realize it. So
Where's that?
In the big curve up there.
Yeah, you got the big curve, you got the, they're all curved. You got the hairpin curve by Craig's, just below that there's a curve there and
There's a
downhill.
sinkhole that develops all the time, something's washing that.
Yeah, something's washing that out. So something down in there, Craig had noticed on a natural spring that it had gone from being very rusty to being very clean.
Not very clean, but cleaner, like
Oh,
our old
cleaner.
iron water from the wells. I was gonna try to test chlorination.
So, that may be an area we still have an issue. The
Yeah.
thing that really I find odd was that when we made that repair, our loss went to 0 on Hickory Nut Mountain,
Now it's back up.
and now it's back up. So,
We got a leak.
so I think repairing that developed another leak somewhere. So I just, without Gary here to dig holes, I'm up to you.
Yeah.
So, I don't have time to go digging. I mean, Chris helped
You got-
out too.
Yeah, David, Gonna be doing some digging for you.
That's what we gotta do, that's what we gotta do, yes.
I just wish I knew where to tell you to start. That's the
And
problem.
then you guys were out there freezing your asses off on Christmas. Like, fixing the water, I can dig a hole. Or try.
I didn't think so. Okay.
I got one for you.
I have other ones.
I get a shovel on you instead. May I ask a question? We're not at public comment.
We're not at public comment. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the cost on a monthly basis of the current loss that's just redeveloped?
Probably about $1,500, $700.
What's our per gallon rate? 4 something per thousand.
So was that the 2.32 gallons per minute? Is that what you're saying? I think there's a mentioning in there about 2.32.
That's why I'm saying
Have my
it's
report.
2.32 gallons
That's
per
2.25.
minute.
Yeah, I have that.
Unknown loss was 33,000.
But your whole total
Total was
loss
86.
was 60,000 gallons.
Total unknown loss, 86,000. So, 86 by 4. Just for a rough number. $340
$4.
$360, 340 something, or 32 plus. So. Yeah, that's,
It's not like the 400,000 anymore in that time. That was,
Nope.
that was
that was
1,600.
that was unmaintainable. We
So
could
that
not
would,
continue.
the cheapest you could do is just continue to lose the water and spread the bill across the customer base.
Well, that's a conversation for another day. We do need to increase our water rates,
Right.
but we don't need to be doing it because of this. We need to find leaks. I think we did it back in the envelope kind of calculation and said that it would actually be cheaper, especially at Gord's View, to do some investigating and pay the labor to get it fixed. One of my fears, because we talked about this several months ago, was that when the new line was put in, the supply line going to the tank, well, to the point where it needed to connect to the tank, that line was put in with blue joints. And I found out from American Water that that's not acceptable. That's not the regulated practice, if you will. They were supposed to have put compression joints on. So we've got several thousand feet or 1,000 or so feet of water line that every time the pumps turn on, and those pumps don't ramp up like the Hickory Nut Mountain pumps do. So when they turn on, they turn on. And if they're doing that every time they turn on,
Cameron,
Yeah,
you know the term now.
I'm learning.
That could be pushing those slip joints
Yeah.
slowly apart. And when we fix one, it then puts the stress on the other. So we did talk about several months ago about the idea of just just going up there with a hydrovac system like we did up on Hickory Nut. Expose all those joints up through there and inspect, and that would, and if we could find, and then replace those joints with compression joints, that would probably be less expensive over the long run than continuing to allow them to go on.
Well, that's the analysis. I attended a board meeting at the RCW there. And their system-wide, both the North Loop and the South Loop, system-wide water loss is at 72%. No, yeah.
How's the EPA like that?
Well, EPA doesn't care about drinking water loss.
However they like it, nobody's liking it, but, you know, I believe that the EPD thinks that the authority is doing the best they can. So that's about it. And it's a very active discussion on identifying where the major problems are and the process that they're going through to go through that. So therein lies the analysis, because your report says, you know, we've done everything we can do with the equipment that's currently available to us. Well.
Other than the old shovel and eyeball. And that's all we got left at this, well, that the leak may be big enough, depending on where it is in the system at this point, that we could use detection. We know we've had a leak on Borgeview between where that new line connects and a supply line that goes back down the hill on the other side of the road.
Is that the one between the pumps and Hickory Nut meter?
No, what, the line is, it is very, very, very unlikely we will ever have a leak on that.
But it says we have a loss of 59, almost 60,000 gallons.
That's after the Hickory Nut meter. That line between the pumps and the meter is one, I forget what they call it, it's that black pipe they actually weld together, they melt it together.
Fused HDPE.
Yeah, HDPE.
Fused HDPE.
Yeah, so it's.
High density poly.
High density. That is super flexible.
Yeah.
And is very unlikely to be caused unless it is sitting in a situation where it's rubbing as it expands and contracts on a rock or something abrasive. There's very little chance we're gonna find a leak in that area, and we have not yet ever found one. We always suspected maybe there was, but it always turned out to be somewhere else. But that line that was put in was done properly. So props to Mike and Scott, because I think they're the ones that did it. That's the last place I look now at this point. Now, one of the leaks that I know we've had for a while is from, the junction. You know where all the boxes are up by our property, at that point, and then on the downhill side of the road, across from Jimmy's. There's a line that goes down to Bill's and then feeds the houses down there. There's a leak somewhere in that section. And the way we know this is we can close a valve at that location and open a bleeder valve after that. And that bleeder valve will start sucking air. So there's something, when all the meters are turned off. So it'll start sucking air. We've looked at that one. Last year, the year before last. American Water came up with like sniffer probes and their listening devices and everything, trying to find where that leak was. They pressurized the system with like hydrogen, I think, or helium, or something, helium. And they couldn't locate where that leak is on that section. So that one, if we want to pursue it, would probably just have to be pothole. And expose the line, start looking for it. But that one seemed to be minimal enough that we could survive well when we're dealing with other ones. But when I'm pumping, I should only be pumping about 3 to 4 hours a day. Up to Hickory Nut, or up to the 20,000 gallon tank. I'm now doing almost 7 hours a day. So.
That's gonna take a lot of wear and tear on your equipment.
Is Luckily, we have two pumps, we can shift back and forth, but it's still wear and tear. And we do have spares for all the pumps, so it's not like it's gonna cause a major catastrophe, but. Yeah, it's always something on our mind, and it's just hard when we're limited on resources, especially when Gary's not around. To coordinate, because even if he doesn't do the work, even if, Chris was helping out. It's having to coordinate that with American Water or whoever's coming up, so. We may reach out. I know you guys have been offering to help every way you can, and we may think about that here in the next month or two before it starts getting cold. I don't like messing with water when it's cold. I don't like messing with water when it's hot, but still. Okay, so moving on, next mayor's comment, still on water though. Just so that the public is aware. And Scott and I've already talked about it, Linda's aware of it. We hit on a recent sample, water sample. We hit two, what would you call them, landmarks, I guess. We hit two levels that are not comfortable. On some chemicals essentially in the water that we're getting from Toccoa through dams. I talked to, one of them was below the threshold that the EPA says is safe, so that was not a big deal, but we're very close. The other was above the level that the EPA says is safe. For the life of me, I could never even pronounce what these compounds were. So I called Lauren, talked to him with American Water, talked to him. He explained that what happens is this is residue left over from when chlorine interacts with biological agents in surface water. So anytime you're treating surface water, the chlorine is going to interact with certain biological elements in that water, bacteria, whatever it is. This is what's left over from that. The presence of it means that you've got water sitting around somewhere and not moving enough. Now, with all the leaks that we've got, there's no way it's on our side. That water's moving through our system constantly. So we had a sample taken Tuesday, I believe, Tuesday. Had a sample taken on the Demarest side of the meter just to verify that the problem is coming from Demarest and it's not on our side. These compounds, the reason they're a problem is that consumed in large enough quantities over a long enough period of time can be carcinogenic. However, Lauren assured me there's no immediate threat. Even if you drink, your full daily allowance of water every day, you're still not gonna
That's
get
a
it.
very long.
Yeah, it's a very long, it's like almost lifetime exposure. But at the same time, I don't like knowing that I'm putting that in my body, to be honest.
Are these compounds organic or inorganic?
I guess they're organic.
They are.
I believe that's how the report read, was they're an organic compound. And like Lauren was saying, it's a residue left behind after chlorine has done its job. So it's like the byproduct, but it's still not good for you.
Did we call our supplier and see if this came up with that?
I'm waiting for the test results. I want to get our test results back, and then I'm gonna talk to Demarest and see if they're aware of it. Because that will kind of dictate what we do. If it's on our side, then we're gonna start doing some major flushing around town, because that means there is water standing somewhere. That's what we need to find out before we make, so I don't want to go accusing Demarest of something unnecessarily. I want to make sure we've got our.
And it's gonna take a little bit to get results.
Okay, so I want to get the results from that test. Don't know when that'll happen. Once we have that, then we'll know which direction to pivot on this. So, but I wanted to put it out that this did happen. It is something we are aware of and we are working on with American Water. To figure out what the best course of action is. So. I noticed in the paper today that, Cornelia is having their big Red Apple Festival. So this weekend,
Yes.
it is they're closing streets off and everything, and, I'd encourage anyone that would like to go down and enjoy those festivities. And I would like to support them in that because they moved their big Red Apple Festival several years, about 8, 9 years ago, they moved the date. Because they were celebrating that on our Founder's Day, which is the October 8th. So they moved their celebration so that we could do our Founder's Day, which we only did like twice. And we haven't been able to do it since because of various reasons, mostly COVID kind of killed some of that. But, among some other things, but in appreciation of Cornelia making that change, I always like to, be supportive of them and go down and enjoy their festivities, so. And patronize their vendors.
Which is Saturday.
Saturday.
So they create barbecue. Oh, yeah, always good barbecue, yeah, so, anyway, outside of that. We don't have anything else, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the floor to public comments.
Sure. So, actually, I mean, wanted to hear the entire meeting, but I actually was coming for discussion of chapter 22. So, I know that the two of you are aware that I did file a complaint against a homeowner for, not being in compliance with chapter 22, section 22-2. So I did that in April. So, it's been over 5 months. I understand the homeowners, they've actually talked to the person or the homeowner. No improvement. And I know that in that same chapter, 22-6, it talks about complaints and hearings. So when you read that, it's very cloudy, like it's very. Pretty much you read it, oh, this can be addressed this way, but when you read into it, it's really to do with with homes that are dilapidated, vacant, causing a hazard. Well, this home is not causing a hazard and it's not vacant, it's an eyesore. And, I read about all of, Tallulah Falls, the beauty of Tallulah Falls. I mean, that's why I moved here. And, we're in magazines, we're in the, I think it was the other day, we got some little magazine, and it was like the top 8 North Georgia cities to visit. We were number 3. So, it's promoting and, personally, ordinances are there for a reason. I don't mind living in a community that has ordinances that has, just kind of protects your property value. And, I think I'm under the understanding that the homeowner's like, not gonna do anything because pretty much the way the ordinance is reading, there's nothing we can do about it. So I was hoping that maybe we would discuss tonight, which I understand you're gonna table it, but, there needs to be some thought on how do you enforce that? Because it needs to be enforced, not just the complaint I made against the homeowner, but we ride our bikes around here and pretty much there's a few things that need to be taken care of in the town. Not just the town, but in the city of Tallulah Falls. There's houses that are vacant, that are, need to be cleaned up. So, I was hoping we're gonna address that, but it looks like maybe council's gonna work on maybe amending that. And I kind of go, talk just on new ordinances and everything. So we got the tree ordinance that we're trying to implement, the, home businesses. So the thing about it is those are more restrictions on residents, but we got to make sure if we're putting more restrictions that we're enforcing ones that are being violated that are already there. Because how can you not enforce something in your ordinance, bring something in and say, oh, well, we don't care that this person has junk all in their yard. but yet you cut a 12-foot tree. You can't pick and choose what you're gonna enforce. I mean, I'm saying, if it's an ordinance, they need to be enforced, if, if a homeowner or whoever makes a complaint. So, just think about that, you don't wanna set the city up for a lawsuit. That, or you don't want someone to not be able to enforce because you didn't do this, so my whole thing tonight is, I made this complaint in April, it's kind of been rolling along. I keep following up, I guess you'll probably think, oh, she's not saying anything, and here she comes again, because I'm relentless. I expect to follow the ordinances, I do that, and, I'm expecting the same from everyone else, but I really think we need to, change 22-6 so that it allows you to enforce all the ordinances in chapter 22, because it doesn't. I mean, it's you start reading, you think it is, and the next paragraph you can't, and so it needs to be a little more clear so that the person that's responsible for enforcing that ordinance has leverage. Another thing is, speaking of the community of beautification, I think that's something we need to do. I mean, it's growing. This is known as like one of the nicest places to visit, and there's so much to do around. I mean, probably people think we just moved in from here, but actually my family's from Habersham and Rabun County. So I didn't grow up here, but I chose to move here because there's so much to do in School Falls. And, I really think we need to take a little more pride and cleaning up the areas that need to be cleaned up. And I would offer my effort for the revitalization. So I'm just putting that out there. But I think there should, I complain about one home, but there's more than one home that actually needs attention.
All right, well, we appreciate that input. That is what you're mentioning, what you're kind of brushing up against is part of what we ran into. That we have some ordinances that have no enforcement mechanism in place. And so the conversation is gonna be first, whether we want that ordinance to continue. If we do, then how do we enforce it? How do we create that mechanism? Because one of the problems we face in our town is that we didn't codify our ordinances until 2017, 2018, you were here, 20.
Around that time, I'm very aware.
17 somewhere. I think you became mayor while
That was going
we
on,
were doing that. Dan initiated that process. Now,
right?
he did it with fear mongering, and we didn't have to do it. The state was not forcing us to do it, but we were in a position to do it. Wasn't a bad idea. We did it. Now we're realizing that some of the ordinances, especially in zoning, need some help. And this is one example of that, is that, yeah, we say, hey, you need to keep your property this way. Outside of zoning, but we don't have a way to enforce it. So that's why I pulled it tonight. At first, I was like, we need to talk about these things, because the number one thing I also don't want, and this is even more important to me, is the town, no government should be an HOA. Okay, that's not what a government should be doing. If you want an HOA, create an HOA. We're not, because we start walking down this very slippery slope of now telling someone that we're mad because their grass is half an inch too tall, or they have the wrong trees in their yard, they have invasive species or whatever. Now, I get some of that. I don't like invasive species plants at all. But I come from an area of Texas where a well-groomed yard was a sign of prosperity. Essentially, I mean, King of the Hills got it dead on. If you've ever watched the show, yeah, your yard, keeping you well groomed and maintained, is highly valuable. My wife would like to have our yard be more of a nature preserve. She likes the butterflies and bees and all that stuff, so, and I'm happy to do that because that's less mowing for me. So, but I don't wanna be, I don't want to cause problems, so that's the balance we need to find. And the conversation, if we'd have had it tonight. After that information, I was like, well, wasn't sure how to guide that at this point, so I just need a little bit of time. I want to talk to Warren a little bit more about it. Talk to the council kind of one-on-one, see where they want to kind of go. But keeping in mind that we don't want to become an HOA, but we do want to protect neighbors against bad actors. Because yes, you can have a bad actor.
Well,
Yeah,
and be able to maintain property values.
yes,
Yeah.
Ordinance.
yeah, and the thing, I mean, I'm not expecting you to have golf course grass like Chris Ward,
Yeah.
but.
Thank you.
I'm not letting you write- I'm not letting you write that.
Thanks, Fred.
And that's not what I'm saying, because
No,
I wish we had a very natural area too. I'm kidding. But I mean, and that's not even that, cause, you know, teachers on it, keep your yard kept, but when there's literally. I mean, the ordinance is very specific on the items.
right,
And, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
no,
yeah,
I.
it doesn't mention grass. but
No, it
mentions
doesn't.
Junk,
It doesn't,
it's
there,
very defining.
it doesn't there, what I'm trying to do, what I'm concerned with is future councils. And when you start doing something here, you start laying the groundwork for more and more and more and more, so being careful here. So that we can kind of. We're beginning the shaping of that mold, that clay. And if we start here and we don't do it quite right, even with zoning, especially with zoning,
Right.
then it opens the door to then violate what everybody else in town would rather have. Because quite frankly, the only people, I'm just gonna be honest, the only people that ever complain about junk and stuff in this town are the people on the internet. No one else in town should take care. No one's ever complained. Most of us moved here knowing how properties already looked. We've never brought it up. So when we annexed Hickory Mountain into the town, the only complaints we've gotten on, especially on that ordinance, have always come from Hickory Mountain. Hickory Mountain wasn't part of town when town was here. So we gotta find a balance. The majority of the town, maybe they don't care. We have one or two people who do. How do we find that balance? Because like you say, property values are an issue. And they may not care because they're not planning to sell anytime soon. But then something happens, they're ready to sell, now they're worried about it,
Right.
so.
Yeah, and I'm not saying to create more, add more to it, but we've got an ordinance that is in effect, but it's not enforceable.
Right.
Based on,
Yeah.
you know, the hearing and complaints and everything. So to me, it's just funny, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone come to me and said, first of all, I think we're all adults, we should be able to talk to each other. And that is definitely would be my route, but hasn't been an accomplishment or anything. But I'm just different. If someone come to me and said, someone's playing at your yard, I would be devastated. I'd be out there cleaning, but yeah, I mean, we're all different, I understand. But we also wanna, it's a beautiful town, but.
It is, and so, like I say, well, I think all of us are hearing what you're saying, and I don't know that there's necessarily opposition to that. Like I say, I want to rethink this. This is like our alcohol ordinance, well, even better. This is like our adult entertainment ordinance. To me. We set that up because we really didn't want any adult entertainment in this town. So when they established that ordinance, it's so restrictive
You have to have.
that you will never see an adult entertainment business in this town. You can't tip the dancers, you can't sell alcohol, and so forth. So they did that very intentionally. That's kind of what I want to do here is I want to take the time, let's see what it is we want to accomplish. Let's see what's important to us and the majority of the community. And since we need to address it, let's address it and let's take our time. I know we can't enforce it right now,
Right.
but let's work toward what we do want to be enforced and enforceable. Get rid of that we're not gonna enforce, whatever that might be, if anything, so. But no,
That's
totally.
fair.
And planning and zoning has made a recommendation to add to that ordinance about noise. And that's that same ordinance too, so.
We actually have one for noise in the other section, that you can't make more noise than is, the next section, one's actually enforceable. They talked about making noise that would be illegal.
But this is for the construction.
Right, no, I think we could add that in that section, so, because we've already got a noise ordinance in place, we just need to amend this.
I'm curious, once a complaint has been filed, what's the next step? I mean, when does she get recognition that,
Right now, nothing in that particular case.
okay,
Well,
There's,
there was an investigation,
yeah, we did an
Yeah.
investigation,
yeah,
and it's
the
that,
code enforcement
will the
chief.
person that filed it, are they notified what the results were of that investigation?
Once we figured out exactly where we could go with it, isn't this taking some time?
Yeah, I mean, I have now today been, but I mean, it's taken a while, and I understand, I read, you know. I read the ordinance and. It's just, I mean, I understand that you don't really have a way of. Making them comply, because you can ask. And, read the, I guess it's complaint hearings 22.6. What it's listed, it really is toward vacant
yeah.
homes that are dilapidated, it's more towards that.
And see, I was like you.
Yeah.
I was like you, I always assumed that applied to everything.
Yeah,
Until we started looking into it. I'm like,
when you
oh,
look
wait
at
a
one
minute.
sentence, it's like, oh yeah, here it is, and then it goes down, and then it can, that run-on sentence, that is a whole paragraph. Goes on down to, you know, and it must be vacant, or, you know.
And that's what we got back from Warren was, well, unfortunately, nothing gives us any teeth to enforce that ordinance.
Not,
Yeah.
not 22, 3,
Right.
4.
And 5,
Yeah, yeah,
which are pretty important because like, I think, what is it, 22.5 is about junkyards? And having to have a fence up
yeah,
And abandoned cars.
and abandoned, yeah,
But
derelict
none of
cars.
that is included.
None of that's included. And we looked at several different places to see if maybe there was some way, and there weren't. There's only really one section in there that's enforceable. So then we need to work on it. Yeah. So among so many other things that we need to work on, that's one that came up and we'll keep it on the list and work on it. But like I say, I want to be cautious because heck, we have that ordinance, it was thrown out there. But it wasn't done with a whole lot of thought. It was incomplete. I don't want to continue that process. I want to make sure that when we do address something, we address it, we look at it from all angles and make sure that we're covering ourselves. Like David told Brian the other night, we got lashed pretty hard legally. I don't want to be in that same boat in the future. I wanna make sure all our bases are covered as best as possible, as best as we can. So I don't want to go down that road ever again. I learned my lesson. Yeah, so we do hear what you're saying. I just want you to know that. We're not ignoring it. It is something we are looking at. So.
Two things, one, not to beat up on the ordinance again, then one on water, on the ordinance, when that was codified. We had boxes in the attic, I mean, no one knew what
It was
anything
insane.
was.
It was insane.
And so that was the first step, was to at least get it all into a document.
Right.
So that part, BURI has got to be, continue the process with that, so in that process, P and Z, I tried to attend some of those meetings that I can. They worked on the tree ordinance, and you mentioned the occupational home, whatever. What's the again, what are the processes, when does that,
We
what's the
have
next step, where they at?
2 hearings next month.
Next month, we've got the public hearing on the home occupation and the treatment
Okay,
for the council.
and so this for lack of a better word, junk ordinance, whatever, we're talking about 22, whatever. That'll go back to P and Z to
No, that's
decide?
outside of P and Z.
Got it,
So. Just so everybody kind of has an understanding how I see it, we have 3 sections to our. Ordinance, the official town code,
yeah,
we have 3 sections. First section is our charter. That can only be changed with the approval of the state government.
Okay.
Then we have our ordinances that just govern how. People are allowed to behave in town, let's just to simplify it. Then we have planning and zoning.
got it.
Or the zoning ordinance, because Linda pointed out that planning is separate from zoning sometimes, which is nice to know. Anyway, so the zoning section, which because zoning tiptoes on violating people's constitutional rights, we have a little more stringent process to get those done. So you have to have 2 hearings. Planning and zoning has to do a hearing, then we have, the council has to have a hearing, and then the council decides which direction that's gonna go after that hearing. So think of it that way, the state has to approve the top section. The citizens have to be more involved in the zoning, but then the other laws in between are a little more free flow. The council can do, but it has to be public, obviously, we can't do it secretly, so. But
Correct.
that's what I wanted to have, that's why I initially put it on here was, I wanted to make a couple of changes to that, but the changes I wanted to make. Were not going to have the effect. That we thought they would have, they wouldn't have fixed the issue, so that's why I felt like I needed to back away from it, so.
No, I
so-
appreciate
so-
clarifying, but
So
earlier,
section
yeah,
22 is outside of zoning.
correct,
We've got another sign ordinance that's outside of zoning. We've got a camping ordinance that's outside of zoning. So a lot of that is just, doesn't have to go through all that process. With zoning, anything that tells you how you can and cannot use your personal property, that has to go through the more stringent process.
so as far as ordinances, I look at those as a requirement of a municipality, whoever's collecting our taxes for safety. Because that's not, it's not an HOA, it's
No.
for safety reasons. You have dilapidated buildings, making cars, I
Sometimes,
mean,
it's-
so, yeah, it's not an HOA, it's an ordinance. But thanks for clarifying that, so I know the process of the others coming through. Secondly, on the report, I was looking back for the minutes, but I missed the last meeting. EPD on the water report. Can you give clarification on the wells? Looks like you got a good report from EPD, but something about the wells.
yeah, if we want to, actually I sent that to you. And got
Because right now, we're obviously still running on Demarest.
we're still running on Dennis. I got something from the EPD. I think it was last week, and I might not have forwarded that to you. And I don't remember if you were CC'd on it. Basically saying we're in compliance, everything's good.
I sent that to them.
You said, okay, so then I should have gotten it. If Linda sees it, if Linda sends it,
Actually, I sent it to them.
okay, then I know that y'all got it. So anyway, long and short of it is that review, we came out fine, there was no problem. What was mentioned was that if we want to maintain our permit to withdraw water from the aquifer with our 2 wells, they can't sit dormant. So we have to have a plan in place to continue to use those, to access that water and kind of keep them active. Don't have to use them to provide water for public consumption. So Lauren's suggestion to us was to, at least on this well here, to set it up in such a way that we can fill our fire trucks off of it. We'll be flowing water through it, pulling water out. We'll be testing and sampling it, and doing the stuff that we need to. In the event, and this is the whole purpose of even doing this, is in the event that we have a situation like we have with Demarest right now. We may face a situation where we need to put them back online. I would rather maintain, I think it's wise to maintain the permit from the
Please.
EPD.
Yes.
Because if we find out that Demarest can't fix this problem. I may be coming in here next month saying, hey, we need to put these wells back in. I don't think I will, but I want to have that in my back pocket.
But you'd have to crank up the filtration thing.
We'd have to replace our whole
The
filtration
whole
system.
situation
No, it'd
before
be
you
expensive.
Be back to that
That
whole
would be,
system.
that would be very expensive.
It would be expensive,
Is that
so.
public safety?
I was gonna say, it's
That is
that, what about
public
safety funds?
Well, I don't wanna play too loose with that, but I'm flexible.
Water is public safety.
Yes,
Well,
it is.
I think water is public safety, my personal opinion, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah.
And especially if we can tie it into, fire services in some way.
Well, that's good to hear. We're keeping those permits in place.
Yeah, that's been my intention the entire time, Scott, both of us are like, yeah, we've talked about it. We need to keep them active. Not sure what we're gonna do with the well up on, Gorge, at the end of Gorge View yet, how we'll address it there. We may tie that, I'm playing with the idea of tying that one in and being a supplemental water source for the 20,000 gallon tank. And just run it every month or so, few thousand gallons through it. Just, that well doesn't produce much at all. I think like a gallon, 1.6 gallons a minute at the most. We overtaxed it when we were having the issues with replacing that tank. Putting that tank in place, we really overtaxed that well, and I don't know if it's fully the code, so, but it's still a source that we have. I don't feel comfortable just trashing them at this point, because even a gallon, 1.6 gallons a minute is still something. So it may mean we need to take quicker showers. Plus it's only once,
Eight
know.
months a week.
something, so, anyway. So,
Yeah, I'm putting in endless hot water.
I love it. I've got one, and I've used more water after putting that in than I ever used before. And now that I got a teenager, it's even worse.
That.
Yeah, my water use increased drastically after putting that tankless heater in. But it's awesome. I will not, no.
I'm gonna call them tomorrow with
I
that
love
recommendation.
it, I love it. We had one of those little squatty water heaters when we first bought our house. And the choice was, I can get a shower in the morning. Or Christie could get a shower in the morning.
Do one.
So, one of us would take a shower in the evening, but if we take a shower in the evening, you had to have done dishes about 3 hours earlier. So, having the tankless water heater was a great upgrade in our lives, so. We can actually run the washing machine and take a shower at the same time. So, it's kind of nice. Anyway, any other public comments?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Like I said, I attended a board meeting earlier and, the authority has its two main projects, going on, the replacement of the filters in the Lake Raven facility, which is gonna happen in December, and the, construction on the, pipes that are gonna go around the Wolf Oak Valley loop. That's, started, last week, I believe.
Wow.
So those are the two things going forward. Now, with interest, possible interest to us is a couple of other things that they're doing, which includes they're refurbishing, getting ready to refurbish the tanks on, Screamer. Which would kind of like our tanks, similar volumes of water at various points on Screamer Mountain, and part of this is they're replacing those valves. I noticed that you have leakage in both tanks, overflow leakage.
Yeah.
And these are the things that they're putting in, and they're talking about what kind of equipment they're going to get put in and hook up to their SCADA system to pretty much allow them to watch this thing 24/7 and alleviate this problem from their system. So, I don't know if we want data on that, or we want to look at what they're getting or what the cost of that is, but that process is going forward, okay?
Yeah, I would be interested in what they're getting, because I would like to have an electronic valve installed for the Demers connection. They can be controlled. Right now, I actually built a device, an Arduino device that I can remotely control the pumps for gorging. That's how I know how much I'm pumping, it gives me a reading out of the tank. That thing's been working all week, by the way, after that. I don't know what I did to fix it, but it fixed it. Yeah. So, but the level monitor will give me a reading twice a day. And then I take that, run it through a calculation, say, okay, like right now, I've got the pumps running. I'm running for 3 hours this evening. And then I can, from my phone or from my computer, I can shut them off when the time comes. So remotely. I'd like to be able to do that with the connection in Demers as well. Then the next step would be to build 2 more devices that work off of float switches in each tank. And so that then we're not running on timers anymore, because right now we're running on timers up here. So no run on timers, we can shut the valve off and let that water in the big tank drain down, because that could be, the fact that I keep that tank is full constantly could be where we're having the problem with these compounds. Because that could be a spot where the water's sitting too long. But if we could let it drop down and then refill, and I didn't have to watch it every day. That's where I'm aiming right now. On a budget. I'm trying to do this on a budget. The little device I built was about $200. I haven't built a town for it yet.
The other thing you asked me to keep my eye on is the meters that they're fixing to put in right now. I think they have 200 frozen meters. So, yeah, and you're tackling them a little bit at a time. So these meters are interesting because you don't have to read them, but they're putting in towers around the county to figure out how many of these things they can hit and where they have to put their towers in. So there is an upfront cost with the equipment that sends the signal out. And there are some values that they're gonna have to manually do. But this is gonna take place in the first quarter of next year. And they're still looking at the models that they're gonna look for, so I'll continue to watch that.
Yeah, I would be interested, because if we would like to still continue to pursue a partnership with Raven County in the future for either supplying water or even managing our system, if we have similar technology in place, it makes it, maybe make it more
They
palatable.
don't supply water to Tallulah Falls, and they don't supply water to
Not yet.
but right now, they're really taking a bite out of Mountain City, because that Mountain City has interesting historical issues, shall we say.
So are they installing like the transmitter on the meter and the cell towers reading it? That's what we have at the.
It's not a transmitter, it's I guess it is, yeah.
Yeah,
they have to
like
hit it
we
with the
have
signal.
meters, at the city that has the exchange for transmitter on, we have towers all throughout Fall County. Read the meter, so for our 63,000 accounts, we can 95% of the time get a reading remotely, and we pull in our reads this way. Plus, we have a active flex call where we alert residents that they have continuous usage, they can have report on that.
That's what they're all gonna do, the whole smear like you got.
It's great when it works. But the other transmitters, those lawnmowers love to eat them.
That's the point. I realize.
Yeah, well, let's just say the transmitter costs more than the meter.
Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, just, I'd be interested to see what they're
Okay.
looking at
Yeah.
and see if there's a way we can budget to do something. I don't know if we can, but we'll see. Okay, any other public comments? None? All right, I would like to have a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Second.
Okay, Scott makes the motion. Mike seconds, so drawn upon, all in favor, it's unanimous. All right. So we'll go ahead and close the meeting for a moment. And I'm gonna get some rest for you. Thank you. That's all good. Okay, need a motion to exit executive session and re-enter normal session.
I'll make that motion.
Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. There being no result from the executive session, needing discussion in this forum. I would like a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Discuss seconds, all in favor.
All in favor?
Yeah, about to get shot, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate it.